Welcome to the Fantasy NASCAR podcast brought to you by RaceForThePrize.com. Get your hand on the Fantasy NASCAR spreadsheet. $20 for February, $250 for the season. Daytona 500 Sunday morning show. Stack the drivers in the back. All right, so long, folks. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next week. No, all right, we'll stick around. We'll stick around a little bit longer. But again, remember, racefortheprice.com. Get your hands on the sheets. PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. Maybe you just want to send that money my way because you appreciate the show. But that's what you're doing. You're stacking in the back. TLDR. This should have been an email. There is no reason for this podcast to go 30 minutes, but you're here and you want something to watch, so I will do it for you. The reality is most DFS shows, all content-wise, could just be emails. It really could. People just killing time. But hey, it's a hang. If you want to hang, let's do the hang. And again, you're just stacking drivers in the back like we always do. Hope that you pick 6 drivers that survive. All right, since we are hanging out and killing some time, we'll have a quick discussion about the drivers up front and why they are untouchables. So we're going to set the projected cut line at 55 fantasy points. Maybe you want to be a little bit more aggressive and go 60. That's probably where we'll see the top 6 or optimal drivers go. But we'll lower the bar and say, okay, can they get to 55 fantasy points? If they can get to 55 fantasy points, then they're viable. And so we've got these guys up front that just can't get there. Right now, if Chase Briscoe wins, then we just give him the automatic 3 hog points or dominator points, whatever you want to call it, lap sled, fast laps. Everybody gets him in the draft. Now, if he does win the race, it's likely probably going to be around 10 or 11, so you can boost that up some, and that will get him above the cut. But all of these guys are pretty much in the same situation. We really don't care about their price. What we want to care about is, can they get a top 6 fantasy score? And for any of them in the front, bold, italicized, they got to win. And that win also is going to require a little bit of hog points too. Most of them would get it. I would imagine if Briscoe wins and he's led laps. If Cindric wins, then he's led enough laps. But it's just an unnecessary risk. And even if they do have that great day and say Briscoe does score above 55 fantasy points, there's likely that there's going to be 3 driver that scores 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th most fantasy points is right there, right behind him, and was a much safer play. You're more than likely going to get 7 or 8 drivers that just survive and had a lot less unnecessary risk and were much better plays if you were worried about min cashing. If you're just trying to, there's not really a conversation to be had. They're all dead. They're not getting over that 55. You want to start to play around with Denny Hamlin right here. If he wins, and he's likely going to get you more hog points. But again, congratulations. He scored the 5th most fantasy points, and you took a huge risk when you could have just simply taken a driver in the back. Now, you can start to have more of a conversation with Ross Chastain, Logano, and Reddick. And I would say this is for more of the MME guys building 150 lineups. And even in that case, you're just like, I want 5% Ross Chastain, Joey Logano. But from my perspective, where I'm standing, not building a zillion lineups, you know, I've talked about the flow chart before. I just want to pick 6 drivers that survive. It's hard enough to pick 6 drivers that don't wreck out. Now you're going to add an extra layer of complexity, a second step to the process where I got to pick 6 drivers, and then I got to pick 6 drivers that are going to be lower owned. All right, cool, man. If you can do that, congratulations. What are you going to do for your next trade? Pull a rabbit out of your hat, maybe. For me, I don't need to go to Chastain, Logano, and Reddick. Again, if you are worried about min cashing, you definitely don't go there. If you want to build a bazillion lineups, then sure, you can play around with that. But you're playing with fire. You're trying to pick 6 and then try to outsmart the field when at the end of the day, I think you'd be happy if you just get 6 to the finish. And you can see they're over the cut line, and they're going to get there without even leading laps or running fast laps. They'll get, the fast laps that fall in everyone's lap. So you bake that in, and they've got to win. But again, we're also projecting them to win. Now, quick thing to say about these projections. For the most part, what I'm doing on this sheet for this show is I am projecting based on their best super speedway finish in a Gen 7 car. But I did boost up the drivers up in the top 10, just pretending they could all win, just to max them out to see how close they could get to that cut line. Because in all likelihood, Briscoe, as you see, this guy's never even been optimal. So, anyways, so we start to scan down. LaJoy, Allmendinger, Gilliland, they're not getting to that cut line. And that's with some pretty solid finishes in the past. No reason to go there. You want to start flirting with Austin Dillon. Austin Dillon makes it well above the cut line based on those previous Daytona wins. That summer win recently. He's probably more like, I think fifth. Anyone would be happy. Now you put him in fifth and he drops down to 52. And that's probably, 12th most fantasy points. And you've got the unnecessary risk of if he does wreck, you're probably not min cashing. So you don't want to go that route. It's getting real cute. Now, I know like some people will draw the line in the sand and say, most people, I don't want to just take the driver starting 20th back. That's going to be my pool. That's fine. And then sometimes it makes sense to tiptoe a little bit over the line. A little tippy toe. Because we've seen that in previous optimal lineups. And you can pull up all the different optimal lineups in the spreadsheet and see like, it was a stack in the back, and then there was this one guy starting 18th. And that's fine. Again, if you want to go through all that data, racefortheprize.com, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, $20 for February, $250 for the rest of the season. Just get out of the way, get those Happy Meals coming. We almost have the entire set of Pokemon, the 16 cards. There's, I think, one dragon that we are missing at the moment. They're all dragon types. So get your dragon type Pokemon. Pikachu's not a dragon type, man. How'd he slide in there? Well, we gotta include Pikachu. Can't leave Pika out of it. All right, Blaney, Elliott. So Blaney right here in fifth doesn't make it above the cut line, but if he wins, he's gonna make it. Elliott, if he wins, he'll make it. And I don't mind you tiptoeing over the line, maybe sliding them in. I guess if we go back to a flowchart idea, you're picking 6 drivers that survive. If you want to pick one that's going to maybe get a little lower ownership, but I don't even think you're going to get that on Ryan Blaney. So anyway, Chase Elliott, again, that's fine. I just don't see a reason in it. You're going a little over the line. That literal line of, all right, put this guy in my pool. Don't really have much interest in Nemechek. 7th place finish, gets him 51. That's not going to get you over the cut. We bake in the hog points. It's not getting you there. And you just run this race in a simulator a million times and project outcomes, and I just don't think he's going to hit that much. I think you can say the same for Allgaier. We'll adjust this. His best finish is 30th. And let's give him the same representation. 52, not going to make it. And then once you get to 20, that's where all these drivers start to come to life, and you've got a bunch of place differential and opportunities. And we'll start at the very back and work our way forward. Thanks for joining me. Like, subscribe, share. You know the deal. Tips are accepted. Get your hand on the spreadsheets. Messing around a lot with AI lately. You guys just click on the transcription tab on this and then grab the transcription, throw it in AI, it'll bullet point everything I say. It saves you a lot of time. But you're here to hang. So, Helio Castroneves, can he do it? Well, he almost survived the ARCA race. He did finish 5th, and apparently the driver behind him didn't know the race was over and ran through him. It's so Castroneves wrecked, but still got a 5th place finish. Didn't really, if you watch those last couple laps, because he was in 2nd, and my fear, he just didn't look good on those last 2 laps. He didn't know what he was doing. Had never really done super speedway racing before, and he survived. But I would have loved to have seen him make some crafty moves and to figure things out, because you're going to have to be able to do that on Sunday's Daytona 500 Cup race. But will you really? You just need to survive. And he's fine if you want to mix him in. I would much rather go with Jimmy Johnson. These cars are competitive. They are fast enough. And if we throw them in finishing 15th, they do just slightly get over that. I'd say 15th for Elio is a reach. I don't believe it's a reach at all for Jimmy Johnson. He just needs to finish the race and not wreck. And he could get even more. 10th wouldn't be the craziest thing for him to do. But one conversation you can have with yourself is Jimmy Johnson going to lay up? Maybe. So that conversation is this. Some of these drivers back here might be a little bit more conservative and play it safe and say, I'm happy with the 5th place finish and not wrecking. And that 5th to 10th is great for your fantasy lineup. Jimmy Johnson, on the other hand, he's going to score you enough points by surviving. And then it's the last 2 laps. It's like, all right, Jimmy, just don't do anything stupid. And Jimmy's like, well, I'm here to win the race. I could care less about a top 10 finish at Daytona. I'm going to do something stupid. So if we look for, YOLO drivers, Jimmy Johnson's going to do that. And that concerns me. That worries me if I'm picking guys in the back. I would rather have a Zane Smith who may be a little bit more conservative at the end. Look, if he just gets to 13 and he's a driver that probably doesn't want to tear his stuff up and maybe told not to tear his stuff up, just when I run this race in my head, I see Smith less likely to, go Leroy Jenkins. See Justin Haley less likely to go Leroy Jenkins. Brad Keselowski will go YOLO. He will go Leroy Jenkins. He will wreck. He will block. We have seen it before. And then he'll blame everyone else under the sun and say there's problems with super speedway racing. Yeah, sorry they don't just let you win anymore. Sorry no one's deferential to you, a king of super speedway racing. So, bullies versus wimps. I kind of would rather have the wimps. I want bullies. I don't want hotheads. I don't want, same thing with Truex. I don't see him laying up. They're going to push it at the end. They are fine plays. They're stacking the back drivers. But we don't need you to win, Truex. 15th gets us to that spot. But ask yourself, is Martin Truex Jr. going to be satisfied with 15th? No, he's not. Again, maybe we're thinking about too much, but I would rather have safer drivers back here because all they really need is a top 10. Again, if Zane Smith gets to 13th, it's above that number. We don't care about 83, 81, 76. Just get above that number. Get above that number. Survive the race. I'm not really trying to max out points. Like if this was an intermediate track race or something else was going on, yeah, we got to score as many points as possible. I'm not worried about the points. The only factor for points for me is can they get above the cut line and then just survive. And these drivers, based on their starting position, can easily get above that cut line. And they don't have to do that much. 13th from Zane Smith, easy. Justin Haley, got him at 7. If he gets to 10, he's still got plenty of space over that cut line. 7-spot cushion. So he doesn't even need a top 10. I would expect him to be pretty popular based on the situation we're talking about. Hocever, I think will be stupid. Can't help it. But, you look at Talladega last year and he wasn't that crazy. 14, 17, Daytona, 11. I could be wrong, man. Maybe he won't go crazy on us. Crazy on you. All right. Maybe you can go with Hocever. Gregson, I think also in the same category. I guess what we have is a spectrum of YOLO. One end, Leroy Jenkins. I don't know if anyone knows or remembers that reference. Probably not. Crazy man. Do or die, checkers or wreckers. Anyway, we look at the spectrum, and I clearly think Jimmy Johnson and Truex are going to be very aggressive and push it. They're not as safe as, say, on the other side, a Haley or a Zane Smith. Somewhere in between, you've got Gregson and Hocever. What's the cut over here? So if Hocever from 33rd to 11th gets you 57, it's good. I don't know. It's not quite enough. 60 fantasy points. If he survives, you're going to be happy. Well, that pick was destined to fail before the game even played because he was too close to the cut line. That's fine. Look, all of these drivers are in the pool. You want to go a little bit more risky, maybe a little bit more upside because you're worried about points, then take Keselowski. I don't think there's much of a differentiation between Gragson and Hosever. Fine. I mean, I know Gregson's got Xfinity Super Speedway wins, but it doesn't mean anything. Survive. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., we know he has tremendous upside, and you know where he falls on that spectrum, folks. He's going to be over next to the Jimmy Johnson corner, the Martin Truex Jr. He's not laying up. You want safety, you're not going to get it from him. Probably get more safety from Cole Custer, but now we're running into the issue of we're creeping towards the front, and that means we need to score more fantasy points. But that being said, I don't think it's too much of an ask for him to finish 9th, which is his best finish of late, and that gets you to 59. Now, if he finishes 10th, that's 57. You're still good. But you feel much more comfortable with Haley, probably Hosever, Gregson, Zane Smith, but Custer is fine. Josh Berry, obviously not projecting well because his best finish was 16th. But again, a top 10 from Berry will likely get the job done. Cody Ware, when you're going with a Rick Ware car, you're just simply playing. And look, those cars are much better now, so let's give them some credit. But among all the drivers that we have mentioned, and now that we're creeping closer to the front, if you're playing Rick Ware cars or Cody Ware, then you're probably predicting chaos and mayhem. And if that is the case, all right. But again, if there's chaos and mayhem, that same environment benefits all the drivers that we just mentioned. And so what you really are picking is, if Cody Ware survives the madness, you also are adding another step to the process and saying a bunch of these guys don't either. So it's really like 2 bets you're making. You're not only betting that Ware finishes around the top 10, which tough bet. You're also betting that none of these guys do, because if they do, they're going to score more fantasy points. Again, I think you're just grabbing a bunch of guys from 30 back and then up here hoping to pick the right drivers that survive the carnage. Priest, if he finishes 9th, just above the cut line, it's not a reach for that RFK car and his teammates to grab a top 10. Priest might be safer than Brad Keselowski. I don't know if I want to go that far, but if I'm on that spectrum, I think so. I think Priest could lay up a little bit more on the closing laps, whereas Brad Keselowski's probably going to pop us in and get in the mood, get a little aggressive. BK, upside your head. No interest in Shane Van Gisbergen. 15th is, I think, probably pretty aggressive. And that's only 42. Pretty rough. Gotta get him. Let's see. Let's play the game. If he gets the 5th, all right, that's plenty. If he gets the 7th, that's plenty. Really got to get a top 10 out of SVG. And look, he can do it. It's not unheard of. You wouldn't completely wipe him out of your player pool. But I think I'd just rather take guys in the back with a little bit more experience. Michael McDowell, speaking of experience. Yeah, no problem taking McDowell. But again, as we're creeping close to the front. But again, how many times are you going to say again? Probably a couple times. Michael McDowell, your 2021 Daytona 500 winner. Plenty of success way back in the day, running with David Reagan and Cole Witt, Landon Castle. Remember the old days of Front Row Motorsports when really all they ever did was super speedway race, and then other times it's just out there? Ah, what a world. What a world. Anyway, yeah, he's fine. You're getting to the range where when you're playing the guys 20 through 25, which are all fine because they can all get a top 5. This is where you're of the mindset of I want to be a little bit different, and that's okay. and that's fine. If you pick from 20 to 40, you just have more drivers to select from that you're hoping to get a top 6 or survive. That's really all it is. It's fine. If any of these drivers from 20th back survive, then they're optimal. And if a lot of them do, then everything, all bets are off. So if a lot of them do, then you just wanted to go 30 and back. And I think that's where I stand. Mainly looking at these drivers 30th and back is the guys that intrigue me the most. I know this isn't really hard-hitting analysis, but you've seen this Super Speedway show before. And you can play around the Super Speedway sheet on your own and mess around with it and set your own cut lines. But the reality is the TLDR, too long didn't read, pretty much anyone starting 20th and back is going to get above that cut line if they make it through. If they make it through. We've got weather coming, could be a race in 2 days. You know how that goes. Volatility, it's Daytona. I don't need to make it any more complicated than it is because it's not complicated. It's stack in the back and who's going to get above that cut line. If you want to draw a hard line, that's going to be your approach, then that's fine. You want to do the draw a hard line and tiptoe across it, that's fine. I, though, have no interest at all in being the cute person that plays drivers starting inside the top 20, especially the top 10. And I don't really want to just kill time here and have another discussion about that. I feel like I wasted too much of your time already, and I apologize for even discussing these drivers up here. You knew they're not good picks. Well, I'm trying to win it all. I don't really care about min cashing. You can win it all by stacking in the back. You really can. Well, this is a big competition this year, and you're going to have to be absolutely perfect. You've heard what I've said about that before. I believe the best approach to super speedway racing is build the winning lineup, not the optimal lineup. Because when you're trying to build the optimal lineup, you're going to get too cute, and you're just exposing yourself. I know, well, I don't care about min cashing. I know you don't, but still, the winning lineup is the winning lineup, and it's not always the optimal lineup. And you can go through the spreadsheet at racefortheprize.com, Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, $20 February. I got a bunch of tools I'm working on. You'd be amazed the stuff that I'm rigging up every day. Really think you guys should be messing around with AI, even if you don't know what you're doing. Just playing around and learning different things and exploring in all kinds of different ways. It's absolutely fascinating what you can build. Like, for example, for this video, I mentioned earlier you could scrape the transcript and have AI mess around with it and have conversation and do all kinds of stuff. You can also have AI create a program that scrapes every NASCAR DFS search in YouTube so that every time a tagged video for NASCAR DFS comes up and live, it scrapes it, runs it through, and automatically spits out a bullet point summary. You can do that. I do that. New NBA DFS video pops up on YouTube. Someone publishes one. Zap. Automatically got the summary. All the key picks. And that's just step one. Then it's like, all right, what do you want to do with that data? What do you want to do with that information? Anyway, it's all at raceforprize.com. A lot of cool things. It's just some of the stuff I'm working on. We're stacking in the back. All right. Let's go over my favorites then. Let's make a bold statement. Give me Zane Smith 1. Actually, give me Justin Haley 1. Zane Smith 2. Alex Bowman 3. Gregson 4. Hosever 5. BK 6. Jimmy 7. Truex 8. Now, with those 7 and 8, they could easily be ones. And I don't mind if you play them. I'm just taking them down because I'm worried about them being a little aggressive. This is all under the assumption that they're all alive at the end. And if they're all alive at the end, I would rather have the guys laying up than the guys that are going to YOLO and wreck me out. That's just where I stand. But That's it. All right, so that's 8. We'll go 9 Custer, 10 Stenhouse, 11 Priest. We'll throw in a Castro Neves at 12. There's a 12-player pool right there. I have no problem. Oh, well, actually, Slide Suarez in there at 6, let's say. Yeah, put Suarez in there at 6. Maybe even 5. So we got a 13-player pool. That's plenty enough. If I were to expand it, I am a Larson fan, so we'll throw Larson in there. He's terrible at super speedways. I know. I told you I'm a Larson fan. I'm well aware of this being his kryptonite. And so the next phrase out of my mouth is going to be, he's due. He sure is due at the super speedways. And, actually, he's been fine. 4th is kind of warming up a little bit. 11th, you get a 4th or 11th, probably need what? So if he finishes 4th, 61. I don't think 11 will get us the golden ticket. No, not even close. But if another top 5, Gibbs, that's fine. There's my 14 driver pool. You want to throw McDowell in there at 15 to round it out? That's fine. I don't hate it. There you go, folks. Hopefully, this was a helpful podcast. Triple Ice fantastic.